What if I told you that one of the greatest lessons about faith in the Bible came from a woman most people have never heard of? Her name is ACSAH, and what she did was so daring, so contrary to the culture of the time, that even today few have the courage to imitate it. This is the story of ACSAH, the woman who dared to ask for more and received the impossible. A forgotten biblical narrative that will transform the way you view faith, courage, and boldness before God. Daughter of Caleb, one of Israel's greatest heroes, ACSAH grew up in an environment of unwavering faith, but the day came when she had to make a decision that would define not only her future, but the legacy of her family. What she did was so unexpected that it was recorded in Scripture as a landmark of female courage. Have you ever wondered why some people receive more than they ask for, while others don't even dare to open their mouths? The answer lies in the gesture of a young woman who dismounted from a donkey, walked to her father, and made a request that no one expected. And at the end of this video, I'll reveal the most surprising detail of this story, something that completely changes the meaning of what she asked for. Get ready. Because ACSAH biblical story, it's not just about a woman who asked for springs of water. It's about a faith that refuses to live with less than God can give. Among the giants of faith we know, Moses, David, Elijah, there are names that go unnoticed. Little-known biblical figures whose stories carry profound truths capable of changing lives. ACSAH is one of them. Her journey didn't involve epic battles or visible miracles before crowds. But what she did required something few possess, the courage to ask for what seemed impossible. We live in a time where many are content with crumbs. We accept the bare minimum because we've been taught not to bother anyone, not to ask for too much, to be grateful for little. But what if God is waiting for you to do what ACSAH did? What if the complete blessing depends on your boldness to ask for more? The story of ACSAH is brief in the scriptures, just a few verses in Joshua and Judges. But within that brevity lies a silent revolution, a lesson about inheritance, about knowing what you need and having the courage to seek it even when everyone around you accepts less. There are moving biblical stories that touch multitudes, and there are those that touch individuals. ACSAH belongs to the second group, because his message is not for those who just want to listen, it's for those who are ready to act. But who was this woman who dared to defy expectations? ACSAH was Caleb's daughter, and understanding who Caleb was is essential to understanding who she became. Caleb was one of the 12 spies sent by Moses to explore the land of Canaan. While 10 returned in fear, saying that the giants were invincible, only 2 trusted in God, Caleb and Joshua. Because of this unwavering faith, Caleb received a promise. He would inherit the land his feet had trod. Decades later, when Israel finally conquered Canaan, Caleb, now elderly, claimed his inheritance. He didn't ask for easy lands. He asked for Hebron, a mountainous region inhabited by giants, and he conquered it. This was the father of ACSAH, a man who would accept nothing less than what God had promised, a warrior who taught by example. Imagine growing up in this house. The afternoon sun touched the hills of Judah. The warm wind carried the scent of newly conquered land. ACSAH watched her father, already scarred by battles, but with eyes still shining with faith. She listened to the stories, how he faced the descendants of Anak, how he trusted when everyone doubted, how he received exactly what God promised because he dared to believe. Growing up alongside a giant of faith doesn't automatically make someone courageous, but it plants seeds. And in ACSAH, those seeds germinated in a unique way. She wouldn't just be Caleb's daughter. She would be the woman of faith in the Bible who learned the most important lesson. God honors those who act based on what he can do, not on what seems reasonable to ask. But there was a challenge ahead, one that would change his life forever. Caleb had a bold strategy. He had conquered Hebron, but there was still one troublesome city, Kiriath-Sepher, also called Debir. It was a Canaanite stronghold, difficult to conquer. So Caleb made a public proclamation, "Whoever attacks Kiriath Sefer and captures it, I will give him my daughter ACSAH in marriage." It may seem strange to us today, but back then, it wasn't degrading. It was an honor. Caleb was saying, "My daughter deserves a courageous man, a man who doesn't back down from the impossible." And someone emerged, Othniel, Caleb's nephew, a young warrior who accepted the challenge, led the attack, and conquered the city. The story of ACSAH and Othniel began there. It wasn't an ordinary romance. It was a union forged in faith and courage. Othniel proved he was worthy. He wasn't afraid to fight for what he wanted. And ACSAH? She was about to prove she wasn't just the daughter of a hero. She carried the same spirit. The wedding took place. The celebration filled the hills of Judah. But along with the joy came reality. Othniel received land as an inheritance. And ACSAH, now his wife, looked at that land and saw something that no one else noticed, something crucial, something that was missing, and that's when she made the boldest decision of her life. The land was good, fertile, a valuable inheritance. Anyone would be satisfied. But ACSAH noticed a problem. There was no water. In the Judean desert, land without water is land without a future. You can have hectares of fertile soil, but without water sources, nothing grows, nothing prospers, nothing lasts. Many would have accepted. After all, they had already received more than they expected. But ACSAH was different. She had learned from her father that inheritance isn't just about receiving. It's about ensuring that what you receive can sustain generations. And without water, that land was an incomplete blessing. So she did something revolutionary. She didn't complain to her husband. She didn't remain silent waiting for someone else to solve the problem. She took the initiative. ACSAH decided to go to her father and ask for more. Not because she was greedy, but because she knew that God doesn't give incomplete inheritances. If He promised, He provides completely. And here's something important for you who are watching. If this video is touching your heart, please like it now and subscribe to the channel, because these exciting Bible stories need to reach more people, and you can be a part of it. ACSAH was about to do something few women of her time would do. She dismounted from her donkey, a symbolic gesture of humility, but also of determination. She walked over to Caleb, and what came out of her mouth was not a timid plea. It was a direct, bold request, grounded in reality. "You gave me land in the Negev. Give me also springs of water." But what happened next exceeded all expectations. Imagine the scene. Caleb, the warrior who faced giants, stands before his daughter. ACSAH dismounts from his donkey, a gesture that draws attention. Everyone stops to see what is happening. There is something in her posture, determination mixed with respect. She is not demanding, but she is not begging either. She is asking with conviction. "What do you want?" Caleb asks, and she answers clearly, "Give me a blessing. You gave me land in the Negev. Give me also springs of water." It wasn't a vague request. It was specific. She knew exactly what was missing, and she believed her father could give it. This is the moment that defines ACSAH as the woman who asked for springs of water. But there is something deeper happening here. She is not asking for luxury. She is asking for life. Water in the desert is survival. It is the future. It is the difference between thriving and merely existing. Boldness in the Bible is never recklessness. It is applied faith. It is recognizing that God is greater than your circumstances and acting on that basis. ACSAH was not being arrogant. She was being wise. And Caleb, who had taught her this faith, immediately recognized what was before him. He saw himself in her, and what he did next is breathtaking. ACSAH didn't ask for more land. She didn't ask for gold or flocks. She asked for water, and not just any water. She specified springs. In Hebrew, the word used indicates perennial springs, those that don't dry up. She was asking for sustainability, continuous provision, something that would guarantee not only today, but tomorrow. This reveals something profound about who she was. ACSAH was the woman who asked more of God, not out of greed, but out of vision. She saw beyond the immediate. She knew that an inheritance without sustenance is an empty promise, and she refused to accept a half-hearted promise. There is a lesson here that transcends centuries. How often are we content with incomplete blessings? We receive a little and give thanks without realizing that God wanted to give us much more. ACSAH teaches us that asking with faith is not disrespect. It is honoring the one who gives. It is saying, I believe that you can do more than I see. The faith that moves the impossible isn't noisy. Sometimes it's silent. It's a young woman getting off a donkey and making a simple request, but one grounded in trust. She didn't doubt that her father could fulfill it, and by believing in that, she opened a door to the extraordinary. Because what happened next wasn't just generosity. It was a miracle disguised as an inheritance. Caleb heard the request, and without hesitation, without questioning, he did something amazing. He gave her not just one spring of water, but two, the upper springs and the lower springs. He exceeded her request. He gave her more than she asked for. This is the miracle in ACSAH's life. It wasn't fire falling from the sky. It wasn't waters parting. It was a father who, seeing his daughter's faith, decided to honor her beyond what was expected. And this shows us something powerful about God's nature. He delights in surprising those who trust in him. The upper springs provided water from rain and melting snow from the mountains. The lower springs provided a constant supply of groundwater, even during droughts. Together, they represented a complete provision. ACSAH received more than he asked for because he asked with wisdom and courage. The miracles in the Old Testament aren't always spectacular. Sometimes they're practical, but they're no less divine. God was teaching something through ACSAH. When you ask in alignment with his purpose, the answer comes overflowing with abundance. And so, a young woman redefined what it means to receive an inheritance from God. ACSAH did not accept an incomplete inheritance, and in doing so, she taught us a truth that many still haven't understood. Receiving from God isn't just about being grateful for what comes. It's about recognizing what is needed and having the courage to seek it. The lessons from ACSAH's story are profound. It shows us that courageous women in the Bible were not passive. They were active, strategic, aware of their worth and of God's provision. ACSAH didn't wait for someone to notice the problem. She took the initiative. There's a common misconception that asking God for more is being greedy. But the Bible shows us the opposite. James 4:2 says, "You do not have because you do not ask." ACSAH had it because he asked, and not just asked. He asked specifically, purposefully, with faith. The spiritual message from ACSAH is clear. God doesn't want you to live with less than he has planned for you. He wants you to prosper, to have complete provision, for your inheritance to be sustainable. But this requires you to do your part, to recognize the need and act in faith, and that faith still resonates. Because what ACSAH did wasn't just for her. ACSAH's request to Caleb wasn't recorded in Scripture by chance. God wanted future generations to see it, to learn from it, to imitate it, because what she did was an example of feminine faith that defies passivity and embraces responsibility. Faith and courage go hand in hand in the Old Testament. You don't find heroes of faith who stood still waiting for everything to fall from the sky. They acted. Abraham left his land. Moses confronted Pharaoh. David faced Goliath. And ACSAH? She asked for springs of water. It may seem small compared to the great battles, but it is not, because what she did required the same kind of faith, the conviction that God is greater than circumstances, that he can do more than we see, that he expects us to move toward what he has already prepared. The faith that asks and receives is a mature faith. It is not childish, wanting everything without purpose. It is adult, recognizing real needs and trusting in a God who provides. ACSAH knew this, and that is why she was not afraid to ask. And her legacy? It lives on in every person who chooses not to accept the bare minimum. Today, thousands of years later, the story of ACSAH still challenges us. It makes us ask, what have I accepted that is less than what God planned for me? Where did I stop asking because I thought it would be too much? When was the last time I dared to believe that God can do the impossible? ACSAH's biblical story of female overcoming isn't just about water. It's about vision, about knowing that God doesn't give halfway, about having the courage to complete what He started in your life, and about recognizing that sometimes the complete blessing depends on your boldness. ACSAH received the upper and lower springs, constant provision, lasting sustenance, a complete inheritance, and all because she refused to live with less. She was not arrogant, she was wise, and God honored that. If you are watching this video, perhaps it is because God is reminding you of something, of an incomplete promise, of an inheritance that seems good, but something is missing, of a calling that you accepted halfway. ACSAH invites you to do what she did. Get off your donkey, walk to your father, and ask for what you know is missing, because God hasn't changed. He still honors those who ask in faith, and He still gives more than we ask or think. The story of ACSAH teaches us that God delights in blessing those who trust Him enough to ask, not with arrogance, but with the certainty that He is able. She did not accept an incomplete inheritance, and neither do you. Today, look at your life. Where have you received land without water? Where have you accepted incomplete blessings? Where have you stopped asking because you thought it would be too much? ACSAH shows you that asking with purpose is not a lack of gratitude. It is faith in action. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below saying, "I'll ask for more." Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because every week we bring you exciting Bible stories that will strengthen your faith. Remember, God doesn't want you to live with the bare minimum. He wants you to prosper. He wants your inheritance to be complete. He wants you to have constant provision, but this requires courage, the same courage that ACSAH had, the courage to get off the donkey and ask for what you know God can give. And here is the most powerful detail I promised at the beginning. The springs that ACSAH received were not just for her, they were for future generations. Her boldness secured sustenance for her children, grandchildren, and beyond. When you dare to ask in faith, you are not only changing your present, you are transforming the future of all who will come after you. May you have the courage of ACSAH. May you ask with faith. And may you receive just as she received, more than you ever imagined possible.